What's up, guys? Derek here with Tap and Turn Gaming, coming at you with something we haven't done in a little while. This will be an episode of Battling with a Budget. Today's deck will be for Kozilek the Great Distortion with a control theme, and the budget given to us was less than $150. The person who gave us this deck was True Hero 17. He wanted to see our take on the colorless commander being a control engine for $150 or less, so that's what we did. We're going to take a look at the deck and what we came up with. And see what you guys think about it. Any, likes, dislikes, that kind of thing. So let's go over the deck. We'll start with the lands. Now, we didn't spend a lot of time on the lands, as we mostly just wanted to get the deck to be as cheap as possible, so we wanted the land base to be as cheap as possible, so we could focus a lot more of our attention on the actual deck itself. So you'll notice a lot of the lands that may seem out of place, but they're all just lands that produce colorless mana for the most part. But we have Panorama, Blink Moth Well, Buried Ruin, which is nice because we can sacrifice to get back an artifact from our graveyard to our hand, so it does serve some utility purpose for us. Encroaching Wastes, Esper Panorama, Ghost Quarter, Grixis Panorama, Jun Panorama, Majoring Network, because it is a storage land, so that's nice. Mystifying Maze, which is also nice because we can use to shut down an opponent's attacker, going along with that control theme. Naya Panorama, Phyrexia's Core, to be able to have a sack outlet and to gain some life. Rogue's Passage to make our general, who is a 12/12, unblockable. So with Rogue's Passage, we have a 2-turn clock for our general, which is very nice. Sanctum of Ujin, Shrine of the Forsaken Gods, Tectonic Edge, which will not be the Expedition version, it would just be a regular version. Temple of the False God, Tomb of the Spirit Dragon, Urza's Factory, and 19 Wastes. We would have had the Urza, Power Plant, Mine, and Tower in here if they weren't all $3 to $4 now. And the reason we run all the panoramas, even though we don't run any of the basic lands for them, is because they do produce mana without having to crack them. So they produce the colors that we need, and that's what we're going to use them for. I did fail to mention that this is our commander, Kozilek the Great Distortion. He's in 10 cost via 8 and 2 colorless required. And he's pretty cool. He says, when you cast Kozilek the Great Distortion, if you have fewer than 7 cards in your hand, draw cards equal to the distance. So when you cast him, you have 1 card in your hand, you draw 6. Pretty cool. He has Menace, so he has to be blocked by at least 2 guys. So if you can limit your opponent to 1 creature, then you basically are now, unblockable. That's very, very nice. And then also he has the ability of discard a card with converted mana cost X to counter target spell with converted mana cost X. The way that breaks down is if your opponent casts a 5-cost spell, and you discard a 5-cost card, you've just countered that spell. That's where the control element comes in. One, that he has Menace, so he has to be blocked by at least 2 guys, and 2, the fact that he can counter spells at will. The only cost to using that ability is just to discard a card. So we'll take a look at what we threw in here. So we have, for instance, there's only a few because it has to be colorless. So we have Not of This World, counter target spell ability that targets a permanent you control. That's pretty cool. Goes along with the theme we're going with. Scour from Existence. Spatial Contortion, so we have 2 removal spells here. Titan's Presence, a little more removal spell. And Warping Whale, being able to exile something or counter a spell or put a sign onto the battlefield. Pretty cool stuff. All good for us. Pretty much all just removals. For sorceries, we have All Is Dust, so that each player sacrifices all colored permanents he or she controls, and since we have a colorless deck, we would have to sacrifice nothing. We have Gruesome Slaughter. This is, I think, a very, very underrated card. It is a 6-cost sorcery. It says, until end of turn, colorless creatures you control gain tap. This creature deals damage equal to its power to target creature. This turns all of your guys into a removal spell, more or less, and that can be very, very devastating if used at the right time and planned accordingly. And then Skittering Invasion, the 7-cost that puts 5/01 Eldrazi spawns on the battlefield, and we can use them to either block or to generate some mana for us. And that's more or less all of our instant sorceries. There won't be a lot because this is a colorless deck. So now we're going to go on to the creatures. We have Artisan of Kozilek, so when we cast him, we can res something. We have Bane of Bala Ged. Every time he attacks, the defending player exiles 2 permanents, so that's pretty cool. It's kind of like Annihilator 2, almost. Conduit of Ruin, when we cast him, we may search our library for a colorless creature with converted mana cost 7 or greater. That's pretty cool. And the first creature spell we cast each turn costs 2 less. Also very cool. Desolation Twin, when we cast him, we get a copy of him, being a, well, not a copy of him per se, but we get a 10/10 token. Draw Scorpion is just a big old combo piece that whenever an artifact dies, you can untap something. Untap target artifact, rather. Duplicant for the removal. Then we have Endbringer, that we can continue just to, we play him, we just deal 1 damage, deal 1 damage, deal 1 damage, deal 1 damage, deal 1 damage. And, puts on that constant pressure. And then, if we need to, we can also make it so target creature can't attack or block. Works out nice with our general. If we have Endbringer out, and we make it so if they have only 2 creatures out, one of them can't block, that means our commander just became unblockable. That's pretty cool. It that betrays, so whenever the opponent sacrifices something, we get it. Then we have Junk Diver, so that when he dies, we can take back another artifact. We do have a lot of artifacts, so that will be very helpful. We have Karn to turn our artifacts into things, into guys. Kuldultha Forge Master will let us tutor up our specific artifacts. Matter Reshaper. When Matter Reshaper dies, reveal the top card of your library. You may put that card on the battlefield if it's a permanent with converted mana cost 3 or less. Otherwise, put that card in your hand. So, I mean, it's just value from him. You play this guy for the 3. When he dies, you either get it to your hand or you get it to the board. But either way, you get it, and that's very cool. Mirror Battlesphere comes in, brings 4 mirrors, attacks, does some damage. I really like him. I think he's also underrated. Mirror Retriever, when he dies, we can take back another artifact. More or less the same as Junk Diver, but doesn't fly. Oblivion Sour. When we cast Oblivion Sour, target opponent exiles the top 4 cards of his or her library. Then you may put any number of land cards that player controls on the battlefield under your control. Just another form of getting rid of our opponent's stuff before they can even get it. Pentavis, he's pretty cool. He's a 7-cost 0/0, but he comes in with 5+1/+1 counter, so he's more or less a 7-cost 5/5. And we can pay 1, remove one of those counters to put a 1/1 colorless Pentavite artifact creature token with flying onto the battlefield. And then we can sacrifice a Pentavite to put the +1/+1 counter on him. So what this guy does is phenomenal if you're playing that control build. Is you cast this guy and he sits there. Your opponent attacks you with a flyer. You pay 1, make the 1/1 flyer, declare blocks, pay the 1 again, and sacrifice the Pentavite to put the +1/+1 counter back on Pentavis. So this guy can really, really be annoying. Basically, for 2 mana, you can stop flyers. For every 2 mana you invest, you can stop a flyer because you create the token, throw it in front of the guy. Now that blocks are declared and that creature is blocked before damage, you sack it and put the counter back on him. He's just great, great utility. Solemn Simulacrum. Everybody knows how good he is. Suchi. This guy is very, very cool. He's a 4-cost 4/4, and I don't think a lot of people play him. But when Suchi dies, you add 4 to your mana pool. So this guy more or less replaces himself. And if you sacrifice him to something like an Ashnod's Altar, you'll net 2 extra mana. So you'll sacrifice him, get 4, and you get 2 from the altar, so you're at 6 mana. That's not bad at all. It helps us to excel into our general. Then we have Thopter Assembly, just to make some tokens for ourselves. We have Thought Not Seer. This guy's really, really cool when you can like blink him and all that kind of things. Not that we have a lot of blink. We do have Conjurer's Closet to be able to reuse him and reuse him. But it's just, in the control shell, he's so good. Then we have Triskelavis. Serves a very similar purpose to Pentavis. But he's a 7-cost 1/1, and he comes with 3 +1/+1 counters. He's also a flyer. So he's essentially a 7-cost 4/4 flyer. And he does more or less kind of the same thing. You can pay 1, remove a +1/+1 counter from him to put a 1/1 colorless Triskalavite with flying onto the battlefield, and you can sacrifice his creature to deal 1 damage to target creature or player. So it's, he's pretty cool. Makes blockers, and when, pay 1, make the blocker block, and then when he's going to die, you sacrifice it to deal 1 damage to the opponent or to take out one of their 1/1s. All good stuff. Void Winnower. He's a 9-cost 11/9. That says your opponents can't cast spells with even converted mana cost, and your opponent can't block with an even converted mana cost for their creatures. So basically, your opponent can't even. Simple as that. Your opponent can't even. If it's even, your opponent can't. And then we have Workhorse. Workhorse is very similar to Suchi, where he's a 6-cost 0/0, but he comes in with 4 +1/+1 counters on him, and you can remove a counter from him for free to generate a colorless mana. So very, very similar to Suchi. You can cast him, and you can remove, 3 of the counters, so he's a 1/1. Now you have 3 mana floating. Sacrifice him to Ashnod's Altar, and now you have 2 more, so you have 5 mana. Pretty cool. I like him a lot. He's good with stuff like recursion engines and whatnot. So now we'll take a look at the artifacts we have. We're running Ashnod's Altar for the sack and mana. Avarice Totem, because you can manipulate this on the stack, where if you pay the 5 mana to exchange control of Avarice Totem and another permanent, And then you also, in response to that, pay 5 mana to exchange control of another one of their permanents, an Avarice Totem. Then you can go ahead and actually get Avarice Totem back. Like you could pay 5, target their Planeswalker, so you're going to take control of their Planeswalker and they'll get the totem. Then in response to that, pay 5 and target one of your tokens. So the way it will work is more or less you're going to manipulate the stack so that they'll end up with the token and you'll end up with the Avarice Totem and the Planeswalker. The only way that they could respond to that is if they had 5 mana free and they could respond to one of them once they have it. But other than that, if they don't have the 5 mana and you use it at the right time, you can really do some damage with this and start stealing their stuff. Especially late game, invest 10 mana to steal 2 of their things or to steal one of their biggest things and give them one of your like Eldrazi Scions or something. Pretty solid. Conjurer's Closet for the blink. Contagion class for be able to use some removal and be able to proliferate it. Then Contagion Engine, more or less same thing. Some more removal for us. Crystal Ball for the Scry. Darksteel Forge to make all of our toys indestructible. Darksteel Ingot for the mana ramp. Elixir of Immortality to get all of our stuff back. Glaring Spotlight so our opponents can't have hexproof. Jar of Eyeballs to be able to scry for as many creatures as scry for however many creatures have died and go ahead and draw a card. Krark Clan Ironworks for the sack. Lux Cannon for removal. Magnifying Glass to investigate, because investigate is definitely an underrated mechanic, and being able to pay 2 to draw a card is not bad at all. Plus it's a mana rock. Mimic that because making tokens at instant speed is real fun, especially to make them blockers. Minion Reflector, we don't have a large amount of guys, so being able to invest an extra 2 mana to get a copy of them, very nice. Mirror Work, same idea, but this one's for artifacts. Mirror Turbine, tap this to make a 1/1 mirror for free. I'll take that. Neveril Disc, to be able to blow up all the toys. We can play this especially after we've played our Darksteel Forge and all of our stuff is indestructible. Nim Deathmantle, this is a huge combo piece where we can sacrifice a creature to, say, Ashnod's Altar, specifically like Su-Chi. So what we do is we have Su-Chi down, sacrifice to Ashnod's Altar. Now we have 6 mana. We use 4 of that to resurrect him back, equipped to the Death Mantle, and net 2 colorless mana on every single one of them. And that is very, very cool. We have Planar Portal for 6 mana to be able to tutor for any card and put it into our hand. Predator Flagship, so that for 2 mana we can give something flying, like our General maybe. Or, for 7 mana, we can destroy a creature, we can give a creature flying and destroy it. Very fun. Ring of 3 Wishes for more tutoring. Sculpting Steel, so we can make this a copy of any artifact on the board. And Seer's Lantern, so we can have some more mana ramp, as well as Scry. Soul Ring for the mana ramp. Spine of Ishtar for the Destruction. Shronic Resonator to be able to copy some of our abilities, like, say, our generals. Tamio's Journal. So at the beginning of our upkeep, we'll investigate and we can sacrifice 3 clues or search our library for a card, put it into our hand, and then shuffle our library. So tutoring is always nice. And Trading Post, because Trading Post really is value town. You can discard a card to gain 4 life. You can pay 1 life to get an 0/1 goat token. You can sacrifice a creature to return a target artifact from our graveyard to our hand, and we can sacrifice an artifact to draw a card. So just straight value town. So some of the cards may seem a little eclectic, but the point is I needed a wide variety of cards to be able to discard to my general. So as you can see, the mana cost, we have a good amount of every cost except 8 and 10. So the only thing we couldn't counter is an 8 cost or 10 cost, and that is huge for us. So now I'm going to go over some of the cool little nuances in the deck that I've come across, and we'll go from there and we'll talk about the deck a little more. Some of the interactions that we have in the deck is that we do have pretty much every converted mana cost to be able to discard to Kozilek. We did include Elixir of Immortality to be able to get all of the cards we've discarded back into our library. We have Ring of 3 Wishes, and we have Predator Portal, and we have Tamio's Journal. Also, we can tutor for specific cards. Now, not so we can tutor for a card that we need at the time, but so when our opponent casts a card, we instantly know the converted mana cost. We can use any one of these tutors to tutor for something that costs the same to be able to pitch it to counter their spell. And that's the point of having those in there. As well as things like the Jar of Eyeballs for the Scry and Draw, and the Crystal Ball to be able to go ahead and scry to get the certain cards we want on top. That's really the point of it. We didn't include a lot of card draw like Font of Mythos or Howling Mon because we didn't want to give our opponents the chance to do that either. So basically what we want to do is we want to drop a couple fatty creatures like an Artisan of Kozilek with Annihilator, of Bane of Balaged, so that they have to keep exiling from their board and just keep applying pressure while Kozilek just sits there and we counter everything. That's more or less what we went with. I mean, we have a few unlimited mana combos. You know, we have Mere Battlesphere. We cast him for the 7 mana, and then we go ahead and we sack 1 Mere to Ashnod's Altar. So we have 2 mana. We then sacrifice the Battlesphere to Ashnod's Altar for 2 more mana. Using that 4 mana, we go ahead and use Nim Deathmantle to res the Battlesphere, and we net 2 Mere tokens every single turn. Now that's pretty relevant if we do at the end of our opponent's turn and then we attack with them all on our turn, or we can in turn sacrifice the 2 extra mirrors on every cycle and get 4 colorless mana every time, and we can use the colorless mana with our Avarice Totem to just do some dirty things, you know, and just go ahead and really just mess with our opponents. Or we can use all that infinite mana with Planar Portal to be able to tutor for quite a few cards. I mean, obviously this taps, we can only do 1 card per turn, but at will we can use it whenever we want for no extra mana invested from our mana pool, and that's a huge thing right there. And then we have Karn in here so that we can use him in conjunction with Conjurer's Closet. So we, at the end of our turn, we pay 1 mana with Karn to animate one of our artifacts so that we can blink it with Conjurer's Closet. So, you know, we have down a let me think of one here. Our Contagion Clasp. We can blink that so that the we can give the -1/-1 to a creature and keep on doing it and keep on doing it. Or the Contagion Engine. We can blink and put a +1/+1 creature. A -1/-1 counter on all of our opponent's counter creatures. So that'll be very helpful for us. There's just a lot of cool interactions. I'm not going to go over every single one. You guys can take a look at the deck list. But this has been Kozilek the Great Distortion with a control build for less than 150. I hope you guys enjoyed it. This has been Derek with Tap and Turn Gaming. Please like, comment, subscribe, and True Hero, I hope you enjoyed the deck. Thanks a lot, and goodbye.